is that Elon Musk, and I know Elon was on your show, and he's here in Austin, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. And we could talk about Elon, but he spent $270 million to elect Trump as president. Okay. I think that's absurd that any one person.
What's the most someone donated towards the Harris campaign?
What's going on, you guys? Today we have Kyle Kulinski slamming Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan was out here losing a debate with Bernie Sanders. Kyle Kulinski is grilling the fuck out of Joe Rogan. I'm giving my commentary. Let's watch.
Sanders went on Joe Rogan's show, and I'm going to show you a couple of moments here. One of them is an actual heated debate over Trump and free speech and his fascism. So we'll dive into that. But let me give you first just a quick breakdown of how it went. So honestly, they spent a lot of the time talking about AI. And, that part, in my opinion, was probably the most boring part. But Bernie also did his classic Bernie thing of hammering away on income and wealth inequality, which I love. Getting Joe Rogan to nod along in agreement to that. We also have, he brought up money in politics and corruption. That was a theme he kept coming back to. That's classic Bernie. That's great stuff. But there were other moments. Look, I'm a little annoyed that he didn't go deeper on the issue of Iran, right? Like, here's Israel and the U.S. launching an illegal and offensive war against a country that didn't attack us. And I don't know, I feel like that requires a lot more hammering away. As Crystal told me, right now, the regime has so many soft spots, and you need to exploit those. You need to hammer away on those. So they did bring it up, or Bernie did bring it up, but it was, sort of, they were just like on and off it very quickly. And I thought that required, a much longer deep dive where Bernie explains in perfect detail how the U.S. are the baddies, Israel are the baddies, we launched the war, it's illegal and offensive, et cetera, compared to Iraq, the whole spiel. They didn't really get into that. Also, Bernie, unfortunately, didn't get into the kidnappings and abductions and human traffickings and sending innocent people to a concentration camp in El Salvador and Guantanamo Bay and all of just the rank fascism, the absolute destruction of the Constitution and due process and habeas corpus. So, it was not our boy's best interview. It just wasn't. There was also a part that made me want to bang my head against the wall where Bernie brings up climate change, and then Joe starts doing climate change denial talking points. And unfortunately, Bernie really didn't take him head on. Now, look, I can understand if you don't have your facts ready, like specific facts ready to refute what Joe is saying, then it's a little bit of a weird position where you feel like, what am I going to do? Let me just move on to another topic. But to allow Joe to do climate science denial talking points, which were complete and utter horseshit, and sort of
right here we have Kyle Kulinski even talking a little bit about Bernie, and I think that that's good. I think that we as a people should continue to hold our leaders accountable. I think that once we stop doing that and once we, start settling, then we're going to just lose our voice as an American people. We're not going to have any say-so whatsoever.
Let him get away with it. That was definitely not good. That was not good, to say the least. There was also another point where, on marginal taxes, where, first of all, the theory holds true to this day. There's not a single conservative in the world that understands what marginal taxes are. And Rogan proved that yet again. And Bernie had to explain that to him. And Rogan didn't seem too hot on the idea of raising the top marginal tax rate, which, of course, is like one of the most basic common sense things that you have to do in our country in order to make it survive and give working people a chance. All right, but now let's get into some more specific parts. So this part triggered the shit out of me. So Bernie starts calling out Elon Musk for donating $270 million to Donald Trump, basically helping buy Trump the White House. Elon Musk also bought himself the ability to illegally hack into the Treasury and do whatever the fuck he wants. This is like corruption on steroids and human growth hormone. We've honestly never seen anything this corrupt other than maybe Trump's scam meme coin, which is another thing that Bernie unfortunately didn't bring up, which he should have brought up. I mean, maybe he did bring it up, but if he did, it was like in passing, so it didn't really stick in my mind. But so he brings up Elon Musk and how corrupt Trump is. And this response from Rogan, it really goes to show you, like, yes, in some parts of the podcast, Rogan will just sort of like go along to get along with Bernie. But then in other moments, he can't like hold back the fact that he genuinely has become way more right-wing within the past 2 or 3 years. So listen to Joe's reaction when Bernie brings up Elon's corruption. And then again, not Bernie's best moment, but I feel like conceding a point he shouldn't. Here we go.
What it says is, you're a billionaire. You have now the constitutional right, because your money is your freedom of expression, right? So you don't like Bernie Sanders? You can put millions or hundreds of millions of dollars into a campaign and express your view about how terrible Bernie Sanders is,
Right.
and you can buy that election, right? That's your
Right.
constitutional right. I think that's probably the worst decision that the Supreme Court has ever made. So what is the result of that decision? The result of that decision, let's take us to where we are today, is that Elon Musk, and I know Elon was on your show, and he's here in Austin, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. And we could talk about Elon, but he spent $270 million to elect Trump as president. Okay. I think that's absurd that any one person.
What's the most someone donated towards the Harris campaign?
By the way, notice Joe's instinct there. Protect Elon at all costs. Protect Elon at all costs. It's brought up to his face how immensely corrupt Elon Musk and Trump are. What about Kamala? What about Kamala? Tell me about Kamala. Now wait for it, because Joe Rogan is about to say something phenomenally incorrect, but all of his little sycophant bitches tweeted out this clip as if it, like, validates Joe Rogan, and he had a point, which I'm about to rip to fucking shreds for you here.
I think that's absurd that any one person.
What's the most someone donated towards the Harris campaign?
They spent a lot of money on Harris as
They
well.
spent $1.5 billion just over
Combined.
the course of a couple of months.
You got it. All right, let me talk about
Of course, Joe Rogan is going to say, you know, what about Kamala? I mean, that's where he's going to take it. He can't for 1 second say, oh, yeah, this is wrong. This is what's going on in the Republican Party. This is what's going on as a conservative, as someone who has, Donald Trump on. I definitely can't call out anything wrong with Donald Trump whatsoever. So the first thing I'm going to say, well, what about Kamala? You know, it's just, it's exhausting.
it. So
Yeah,
I'm not here
let's
just
talk
to say
about
it's a
that.
Republican. That's my point here.
Right.
Okay, did you hear that? I'm going to play it for you one more time. Listen closely to what Rogan says.
He spent $270 million to elect Trump as president. Okay. I think that's absurd that any one person.
What's the most someone donated towards the Harris campaign?
What's the most someone donated towards the Harris campaign?
They spent a lot of money on Harris as
They
well.
spent $1.5 billion just over
Combined.
the course of a couple of months.
You got it. All right, let me talk about it. So
Yeah,
I'm not here
let's
just
talk
to say
about
it's a
that.
Republican. That's my point here.
Right.
What Joe Rogan just said there is a lie. Maybe it's not a lie. Maybe he's just flat out misinformed. But he just said someone spent 1.5. No, Joe, that was the entire campaign. That's how much money the entire campaign raised. Now, I'm against money in politics. Bernie's against money in politics. But let's be clear. These things are not the same. In fact, I went and I looked it up, right? I said, how much money did Kamala's 2024 campaign raise in total? The answer was $1.4 billion. Then I asked, who was the biggest single donor to Kamala and how much did they give? The largest single donor to Kamala's 2024 campaign was Future Forward USA Action. That's a Democratic-aligned nonprofit. So it's a PAC, which contributed $138.5 million. That's a whole PAC, okay? This reflects the largest single organizational donor. The biggest individual donor is Dustin Moskovitz, who gave $50 million. So no, objectively, mathematically, empirically, there is no comparison. Elon spent one person $270 million he spent to buy Trump the White House. The most a single donor gave to Kamala was $50 million. Now, I'm against all private money in politics, billionaire money in politics, corporate money in politics. I would do clean elections, which is public financing for elections like that right now. So I'm not defending the Kamala thing, but this is the sort of false equivalence bullshit that I hate. And also, it's not even false equivalence, because what Joe is saying is Kamala's more corrupt. The Democrats are worse because someone gave her $1.5 billion. That's not true. That's a fucking lie. Nobody did. And by the way, let's be clear. We have never seen a more corrupt scheme than what Elon Musk and Trump did. Elon Musk gave Trump $270 million. Trump in return said to him, here's the fucking keys to the treasury. Loot it if...
So there we have it, you guys. It's Kyle Kulinski going in on Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is going to be combative with Bernie Sanders. It seems like from now on, from here on out. And for somebody who is saying, hey, look, Bernie's my guy. This is the guy I'm going for to now. He just doesn't even want to see the light. He doesn't want to see it clear as day. Kyle Kulinski is going to have to call him out. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. It's another day in the progressive way.